We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets.
I have the body of a weak and feeble woman.
All men are created equal. Because I have a dream.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello everybody and welcome to a very exclusive and slightly different ModsPod today. We've got James and Alan and we are going to be discussing Manchester United versus Liverpool and who the all-time team should be. I think that's what we're going to end with.
Yeah, so sort of the combined 11 all-time Premier League from Liverpool and United.
Okay, so we need to agree and we're going to basically talk about, obviously for everyone who's listening, I support Manchester United and the two Barts, we're going down the Liverpool side.
Well, you say that. James is a Norwich fan, but he's just hanging on the coattails of the fact that I support Liverpool.
Oh, poor you,
because
poor
obviously
you.
Norwich, can't stay in the Premier League more than one season.
Yeah, we don't need to talk.
Have you had the help for being a Liverpool fan? Have you sought the help?
I tried,
You tried.
but unfortunately nothing has worked so far.
I was going to say, can you give me the number? Because being a Manchester United fan at the moment is quite tough. Alright, so if we start this then, James, you want to announce the team that you're bringing, and by the end we need to agree or disagree on this positions.
So I know this is going to be controversial in so many positions, but I haven't gone to Liverpool. I don't think. I haven't gone too bad.
Just looking at it in front of me, I can see already we're going to disagree.
Right. I've gone with Alisson in goal.
Dear.
We'll get to that in a minute. Then I've gone for Trent right back because he's just evolved the right back position. And he's also my idol, so there's a little bit of bias. But whatever. Van Dijk needs... No, don't...
I'm just listening, James. I'm just listening.
Van Dijk, Ferdinand, obvious reasons. Robbo.
Is that because he's Scottish?
Well, no, he's so consistent and such a good right back, left back. I couldn't think of a left back from United.
Oh, trust me, I've got a few.
And then midfield, this is probably the bit where I'm most set on. Scholes, Gerrard and Beckham. Beckham would usually play right mid, but I put him in midfield because...
So you go with a 3 by the looks of it. Your formation is a 3.
Yeah, so 4-3-3.
Right.
We'll work around it. Then right wing, left wing, Ronaldo, because he played left wing for United, and there's too many good strikers. I can't really put him there. And then Salah, right wing, because he is probably level with Henry for the best player ever to play in the Prem.
Controversial.
It's a big shout, isn't
That
it?
is a big shout. So you're missing a striker.
Yeah, I couldn't pick one striker, so that's sort of down to you two to
Right.
figure out.
Well, I think United this season are missing a striker, so
Well, yeah,
that's all well and
They
good.
haven't even started yet. Come on, we had a good win yesterday.
Right.
Let me revel in it.
How do you... This is totally off topic, but how do you spend 85 million on a fidget spinner from Brazil instead of buying an actual good
This
striker?
is controversial. This is like slander. This is that kind of talk.
Did he score yesterday? Was that him?
What, Anthony?
So
Oh, no, he didn't
Martial scored, but he only ever scores against Everton, doesn't he? So that was
Yeah.
nothing new. But the greatest goal the Premier League's ever seen with Garnacho. The future's looking bright for us. That Manu, what's his name? Manu. He's going to be good. Anyway, we're talking about the past here, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we go
Premier
the
League, Premier
years.
League years.
All right. So if we go through, I guess, position by position, and
Yeah.
we have our little argument there, and then we'll
Discussion.
go. Sorry, yes, discussion.
Arguments.
So we're going to look at things like appearances, titles won, things like that.
It will be stats and played in game, because I can already tell there's going to be a treble debate.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that.
Well, I'll bring 1999 into this. Don't you worry.
And 2005.
Yeah, but that's that.
Oh, and
2005 doesn't count, does
2020?
it? Come on, 2020.
And
it was
2019.
COVID.
Yeah, in 2019.
I could have won the
2019
Champions League in 2020. Ridiculous.
But they won a Carabao Cup like a year ago.
Yeah,
so
they did. Don't you forget that. It's the greatest competition on earth. So,
it's better than Tiger Cup. To be
I
fair.
suppose
That's
before we
Tottenham's
start looking
chance.
at players, shall we consider who's the best team? Right,
What,
in the
as-
sense of who is the best English football team of all time? It's got to be
Oh.
one of the two, hasn't it? We
Right.
both agree on that it's one of the two, yeah?
So
Well, yeah, you look at titles won all the way through.
And,
What are you on? Are you on 20 now? We're on 19.
Yeah. influence, impact around the world, sort of size, global stadiums. I mean, City doesn't count, does it? They could win the next 40 leagues and it will never quite have the same pedigree as United and Liverpool's years. We know that obviously Liverpool dominated in the 80s and the 70s. I mean, I could have definitely played in those days as well. I think our dominance in the 1990s and early 2000s arguably was harder because players are better, tactics are better. I'm just throwing that in there because I don't want to take away from Liverpool's amazing success in the 70s and 80s. So overall, we've got 20 Premier Leagues. You've got 19. So we're the best English team, surely.
Based on Premier Leagues, then absolutely.
Yeah, if you combined all trophies, including Champions League. If we do Prems and Champions League.
So you've got 6 Champions Leagues?
6.
We've got 3.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose, because you're the best in Europe then, aren't you?
And FA Cups.
I think United are better than Liverpool.
I think they're edging it. I think it's only odd one or two in it.
There was a period there under Sir Alex where we were well ahead of everyone, but we've obviously been a bit rubbish. So this European Cup, remember keeping in mind when Liverpool won these European Cups, so these 6 teams in it. And I think your hardest game was against Malmo FC, wasn't it?
Hey, Malmo are a good team,
Yeah.
and I know someone who played for Malmo,
Really?
and also someone who played for Trelleborg as well. Trelleborg, sorry, just a little bit further south.
Wow, that's cool.
And they played against Blackburn Rovers in the UEFA Cup in '94 after Blackburn won the Prem.
You're really selling this, European Cup thing. So you've won 6, but 2 of them. Can we really say that you didn't have any? There was no groups. There was no, you had what 5-6 games
Well,
for the final.
if it was that easy, then why didn't United win any of those? Because you're saying there was only 6 teams, and you're playing against a second tier in Sweden.
Yeah, because we were fighting relegation those years.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, it's not. It's not how you start; it's how you finish.
Indeed.
You've got that first win there. I'll give you that.
So how have you finished right now?
Well,
It's a work in progress.
absolutely, it is.
See, I'm not going to be too smug because I started supporting Liverpool in the early 80s and got to about your age at high school in about 1990 thinking this is brilliant. I'm supporting the best club in the country, only for them not to win a league title until you were the age that I was when they won the last league title, that 30 years on. Wow. So we can't get too smug.
Yeah.
United are going through a rough patch at the moment. They've had inconsistencies with managers. And I think managers is somewhere where you would be above. You'd get a point back for managers because I think everyone around this table would agree the influence that Ron Atkinson had.
I was waiting for that.
No, that Sir Alex had.
Ron.
You can't ignore the impact that Sir Alex had.
No, that's true. He's on my list to bring to you as the star card.
Yeah. So we'll go through position by position. We'll get a team together, then we'll do manager. I think we all know what the manager's going to be.
Well,
but
we'll see.
To be fair,
I mean, we've got to give credit to Roy Evans. I mean, that
when
legend,
him and Gerard Houllier did it between them for a little while, you know, Roy Evans oversaw the classic 4-3 Newcastle United match, which is hailed as one of the best Premier League matches of all time, when Stan Collymore hit that shot and it bobbled over the keeper.
Yeah, you're reaching here, you're reaching, you got the greatest game ever. We'll see. So, obviously, you sound like you should support Liverpool. I sound like I should support Manchester United. There's a bit
absolutely my broad Scouse accent really gives it away. Yeah,
and my total Manc accent. So when we moved from Scotland, I was about 4, I think, and I came to Liverpool eventually, and I just thought, oh, Alex Ferguson's Scottish, Brian McClure's Scottish. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I just supported Manchester United. This did not go down well in Liverpool, as you can imagine.
Yes,
I've taken the kicks for it, but it was helpful that every year, or at least every other year, I could go into school as a champion.
Mm-hmm.
James, you yet to feel this, apart from the odd Norwich up and down, and you've had your COVID win where no one cared.
Thanks.
Harsh, isn't it? No, it's a good win. I mean, it was good. You're playing in front of nobody. It was fine.
Just think of the mentality of the players to play in an empty stadium. Often, the 12th man not being there, we didn't need the 12th man. That's how good that year was.
This is true. I absolutely... Liverpool have been outstanding for the last 4 or 5 years. Really impressive to watch. And as a football fan, all this is like joking aside today. football side, they've been amazing to watch, haven't they? City have pushed them. You've pushed City. It pains me a lot to say that. However, I'll say it. I've said it once. I don't know if I'll be saying it again in this podcast. So, shall we start team goalkeepers?
So I've put Alisson, but I already know there's going to be some backlash by saying that. So
Right, you tell me why Alisson. What's he done?
So he was the most, when Liverpool signed him, he was the most expensive goalkeeper to like move to the Prem. There was so much pressure on him, and he delivered and has stayed consistent and probably Liverpool's best goalkeeper ever, I want to say.
Well, there's a few good ones from the Premier League era,
There
isn't
are. But I would still say his consistency and the way he's influenced that Liverpool team, you can see like against, like he's had so many times, well not so many, but he's had a couple times where he does, like he scored a goal with his header. That was, no one really expects that from a goalie.
What, Peter Schmeichel, but
Yeah, the goal against West Brom was a good one. Talk about pressure in that last
oh yeah,
time added on.
And then the amount of, so his distribution to Salah, we've seen it multiple times. I don't think you can beat his distribution unless you're Ederson. Well, Ederson, to be fair.
Do you mean with his foot, his passing out?
Yeah. He gets it directly to Salah time and time and again.
Well, he did that assist against United a couple of seasons ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, easy, Tiger, easy.
But I think, except for Ederson, who's basically a midfielder in goal, has the best distribution in the Prem for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, it wasn't a good season last season though, was it? He's letting some silly mistakes in.
Last season we can just ignore.
Oh, can we? Convenient.
Would you like to ignore last season?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
We all agree we can
We're
ignore
all
last
agreed.
season.
Last
Well,
year,
no, to be fair, David De Gea did get the Golden Glove last season, so
And then
it was close. Yeah, he was like a clean sheet ahead going into the last game.
And then you put it, I don't get that. David De Gea was so good for you. For like, he wasn't necessarily consistent, but he was still good. But you
consistently like 10 years out of him winning the Golden Glove every year.
I know, but he did do some.
If it wasn't for
quite
him,
shocking
I might
mistakes.
say, if it wasn't for De Gea, United may well have had a relegation battle in a couple of those seasons in the last 7 years. He was our man of the match every single week. His shot stopping is incredible. His footwork probably less good. I'll definitely give you that Alisson wins with the ball at his feet.
Yeah. But the one thing I don't get from United, they just let him go.
Yeah, I mean it's controversial, I guess, but we don't know what was going on behind the scenes, do we? What people were asking for. As a goalie, though, of stature, I don't believe David De Gea is United's best goalkeeper.
No,
me
definitely
neither.
not.
I'm torn a little bit between Peter Schmeichel and Edwin van der Sar. Now, the reason why I'm going to steer clear of van der Sar, although he did get the record of clean sheets, I think it was about 11 or 12 games in the end of not conceding a goal, which I don't think will ever be ever done again. And that was in this Premier League era, with some fantastic teams and strikers. So to go 11, I think it was 11. It's a long time anyway. He broke the record of clean sheets. He was only at United for a short period of time. So the guy I'm going to argue with, I'm going to go for with is Peter Schmeichel. He was my hero growing up. I was a goalkeeper. But his sort of stature, and he was at the beginnings of this Manchester United revival. You're talking about I suppose, Alisson's gift of finding Salah every time of the pass. Well, you won't have seen this, but Peter Schmeichel could throw that ball, literally throw it half the pitch, and it always fell to Ryan Giggs or Lee Sharp or David Beckham. So as an outlet, all he had to do was gather that ball, and within 5-10 seconds, United scored because of Schmeichel. He was a big guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think everyone was scared of him. I think even our own team were quite scared of him. And he managed to win the European Championships with Denmark. So we've got a guy
that
who
was 92 times.
92. I mean, it was awful, wasn't it? That was when they could pass the ball back and they kept picking it up.
Yeah.
I think the Germans were absolutely frustrated in the end. But we got this amazing goalkeeper for years. And he did score. He scored several goals. He scored one. I'm sure it was in the Champions League against Volgograd or something to make it 2-2. And we'd never lost in Europe at that point. So it was a last minute. He came up and he headed it in. Probably not as important as Alisson's goal. I'll give you that. So for me, Schmeichel, he changed how goalkeepers were viewed. He made it cool to be a goalkeeper. without him, we wouldn't have won maybe 2 or 3 of the Premier Leagues that we did, because some of them are very close last day.
I think the same thing with Alisson. We wouldn't have won any of the trophies we did without Alisson.
All right. So how many Premier Leagues, how many titles has Alisson won? Shall we go down this route and see if we weigh it up like that? Because I think we're both saying the same thing. 2 very talented goalkeepers. So titles wise, he's won 1 Premier League.
Yep. 1
Champions League.
2 FA Cups, I think.
I think it's 1 FA Cup.
1 FA Cup.
Yeah.
A Community Shield.
League Cup.
Community Shield. So he's won everything. He's won everything but once.
Yeah.
Whereas Schmeichel's won 5 Premier Leagues, 6 Premier Leagues. Carabao Charity Shield every year. We won that, didn't we? Apart from the odd one. Champions League. League Cups. So Schmeichel won many more than Alisson in a similar period. I think, how long's Alisson been at Liverpool for?
Since 2018.
2018. So 5 years. Schmeichel was about 7, I think, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
So you've got 2 years to catch up to 4 more Premier Leagues.
Well, we might get some retrospectively, depending on what sanctions
we
are placed on City.
We could get an extra 2 because we were 1 point off City twice.
Wishful thinking. Oh, you sound like Liverpool fans.
That's never going to happen.
All right.
You see, with the goalkeeper, it's almost, I feel like I got the casting vote almost, because you both put a good case forward for Schmeichel and for Alisson. The other Liverpool keeper I had that I could choose, I wasn't going to go down the Bruce Grobbelaar route because most of his was pre-Premier League. The only other one that had a massive impact for the team and for myself was someone like Pepe Reina.
Yeah.
But he came in off the back of the amazing 2005 Istanbul, where Jerzy Dudek paid homage to Grobbelaar in the penalty shootout and did the old wobbly legs.
Yeah.
But Pepe Reina, was almost that, this is how a modern goalkeeper will be. But I think if we're looking at game changers, I am going to have to go Schmeichel. That was the template of where we now see players like Alisson come through. It was kind of, the godfather of goalkeeping coming through in that late 80s, early 90s. You're right. He was worth almost a point a match just by being in a goal. Yeah. It was almost like having a 1-0 up to start with, because you looked at Schmeichel, he would roar at people. He had his big old red nose and red face and blonde hair. You see Kasper Schmeichel when he was playing for Leicester, it was almost like a Diet Coke version of Peter, because Peter had this aggression. He would just command that area. Alisson is close, but you're right. Needs a few more accolades under his belt.
I am willing to concede that, because it was Alisson and Schmeichel both times.
All right.
Like, they were the 2 that I was stuck on, but I edged Alisson just because of
blind loyalty.
Yeah. Basically.
Disappointed to see Mingele didn't get a mention there.
I know. Always that guy in the Real Madrid final. What was that classic goalkeeper you've got?
Karius.
Karius has to be on.
He's still got concussion.
God rest his soul. All right, so we're going to go with the Schmeichel win. I think I agree that game changer, that winning ability, and also the confidence that I had in front, because that allowed Manchester United to play much higher up the pitch, because you knew you had him behind you. And as we've seen in the last few years, where confidence was low in the goalie, they get deeper and deeper. All right, so good fight. Alisson out, Schmeichel in.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
you. So let's go right back then.
Yeah. I put Trent. I may be slightly biased, but Trent has evolved the right back position. So you can make it so you can push forward. You make it so you can cut in the middle. I get there are a lot of really good right backs for Man United, and there's other options for Liverpool that were like standard right backs, mainly defensive. But the way Trent has evolved the actual position and made it so the right back has more freedom and is still able to like cut back and defend and also support the centre backs, I think that sells me.
Okay, so he's quite a liability though, isn't he? I agree with everything you're saying. Going forward, passing
excellent.
The ball, I don't think I'm not going to even attempt to deny that Trent Alexander-Arnold passing that ball as a right back is incredible. I don't believe he is a right back. I think he's more of a forward player. I'm not even going to try and challenge that, but my challenge would be that I might put ahead Gary Neville for consistency and reliability. Gary Neville is never going to be, he himself would say that he wasn't a star player. No one wants to be a Gary Neville. That's what he used to say, and that's true. Whereas Trent is a superstar. There's kids who want to be Trent. now, and this is probably why I will concede Trent in the end, because young lads, young girls who play football, they want to be like Trent. No one wanted to be like Gary Neville. So for consistency, though, he was always there. He was reliable. He worked super, super hard. And again, championships, he was able to contribute to that, going about his work. Out delivery with the ball doesn't even come close to Trent. Changing a game doesn't even come close to Trent. I will put ahead. I think Trent's got to be right back for sure. Is that Gary Neville was probably more reliable than
I will
Alexander.
concede reliability factor, but everything else, I think Trent has to be there.
How important is that though? Because he must have cost you about 12, 15 points last year.
Yeah, but for the seasons we did win, he probably gained us about
the season.
Well, yeah, the season and the seasons because
so
of the
he's
Champions League.
won one Prem, one Champions
He's
League.
won one of everything.
Yeah. So a bit like Alex. He's been there a similar time, I guess, haven't they?
2016, he broke through there.
Yeah. How old is he now?
Still only like 23.
He's got years ahead, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. I'm definitely going to let you have. I don't know what you think, Alan, but I'll let you have Trent. But there is a little niggling doubt in the mind about his reliability.
You know, I can't disagree. I was looking at the two, and I didn't even highlight Trent. Cause I went through my defence, who I would pick of a sole Liverpool defence, and I ended up with 6 players. So I left Trent and Robbo out because it's all well and good talking about this season and last season, but there were some other players, you know, like your Jamie Carragher's of the world, like your Jon Arne Riis's of the world, Sami Hyypiä, who was just an absolute beast in central defence, and then obviously Virgil. And I was kind of thinking, well, have they done more? Although not necessarily got all the accolades of the titles, but did they do more in the game when it was tougher for Liverpool, when they didn't have such a good squad?
Yeah, they're a lot more attacking.
And then I turned to the United team, and Neville obviously is a little bit older than myself, so I've seen him come all the way through, and he wasn't a glamour player. He was that, not even a bread and butter player. He was very quick. He benefited from Schmeichel at the back to be able to push up, to interact with Beckham, and down the right-hand side in the sort of mid-late 90s, those two absolutely bossed it. They were exchanging positions like we see Trent now exchange with Mo and that sort of thing, and going forward. But he wasn't a glamour player.
No.
No one wanted to be a Neville, whether it was, you know, Gary or Phil. It depends how you want to set your team up. Trent's excellent, but you're right. Going back sometimes, there's just a little bit of indecision, which could cost some points, could cost a goal, could cost a chance.
That was clear this weekend. Although you got a draw at City on Saturday, he was the danger. That's where your heart's in your mouth when you're watching Trent, I think, isn't it?
He was the catalyst. You know, that goal he scored as well to level it up. He's got 17, 18 goals now for Liverpool. And he's a right back.
And in that sense, he's incredible. So in the modern world with this, you know, the overlap and the things like that, the tactics have evolved seriously since the Manchester United days of Neville and stuff. I think I'd rather have Neville for consistency and reliability, but I'm going to give you Trent because he's more entertaining. He's literally, like we said with Schmeichel, if I'm giving Schmeichel props for changing how goalkeepers are viewed, then we have to give you Trent. Yeah. All right, warts and all, even though he's a bit of a liability, and he's only going to get better, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he's got a great coach there, and he's going to get better.
He's not coming into his prime years
Absolutely.
yet.
No, he's still like 23.
23, 24, something
all
like
right.
that.
Trent, right back, you got it. Let's do centre-backs now.
Right, I think this in the midfield, and obviously up front, but this is probably going to be one of the most controversial parts because you have so many good centre-backs.
Yeah.
And so do we. But I think I will not negotiate Van Dijk. That he is not moving. He had the single best centre-back season we have ever seen. He should...
What? In a Liverpool performance?
Yeah. Well, because that was like 2019 when Messi won the Ballon d'Or. It should have been Van Dijk. It should have been. He had the best season for a centre-back we've seen since probably like Ramos at Real Madrid or something like that.
So, all right, what about then? Because this got to be a little bit quicker because there's two of these, but one good season is what you sort of, I think, putting your mast on. That he had a great season.
One good season plus consistency.
Poor last season.
He was poor last season, but so was just Liverpool in general.
Right, okay. So you got Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister. These centre-backs literally never put a foot wrong. Like that consistency for 10 years, 11 years. You know, I know we didn't have Vidic and Ferdinand together for a long time. Jaap Stam.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, you know, I watched Jaap Stam. I remember going to Everton once to watch him. Sometimes defenders just hoof the ball away. And I think Van Dijk is of this, what I'm about to say. Stam always found a player, whether it was a header or he put the foot down and passed it up. I hear what you're saying. I just don't think that Van Dijk can not just for not winning things, but can be classed in the same sort of league as Stam, Vidic, Ferdinand, Bruce and Pallister. Although again, Bruce and Pallister were not superstars; they were like celebrities, if you like. But those two in the centre of the midfield is what essentially Alex Ferguson built his team around. You know, so for their impact on Manchester United's glory days of the 90s, surely Van Dijk can't compete with that.
That said, I think for the catalyst for the more recent seasons, you know, his signing from Southampton. So let's not forget, we sold Coutinho, who was, you know, a magician in midfield. You replace him with Alisson, Becker and Virgil van Dijk, and suddenly we've got that spine that we were missing. Okay. So from that impact that he had from 2018 when he joined, 2018, 2019? Yeah, 2018. And goal scoring prowess as well. 19 goals at last count he's scored from a centre-back position. Now, most of them are headers. There's been a few penalties in there as well. So he's been an absolute game changer for the Liverpool team, but that doesn't mean he's reached the, you know, I knew you were going to mention Vidic. I knew you would come up with a Ferdinand. There's no doubt about the quality of either. And obviously, Yip Yap Stam is a big Dutch man, I think was the chant down the Stretford end.
He was insane.
I think he's got a lot of the qualities of Stam. Plus he just bosses that area. You know, I was going to go for someone like Sami Hyypiä because he was the nearest we had to like a Vidic and a Pallister, maybe that sort of big commanding guy in the middle who would just, you know.
I wondered if Hyypiä just loses because he was unfortunate that he was in that team.
He was at the wrong time.
At that time.
Yeah. He was in the sort of lean years, should we say. The very lean 30 years.
But was he made to look good because there was an awful lot of defending that Liverpool had to do in those days?
Could well be. There was a level of mediocrity within the team. We know that. I've looked at some of the signings and you look at some of these people go, how did we sign you? But that was just because of the position we were in. We weren't a top four club. As
attracting the top players is hard, wasn't it?
Absolutely. We had some, you know, we had some real nuggets and they'll probably come up a bit later who we did manage to sign in those lean years. And we had some great players, particularly when we look at midfield and go further forward. But they were still in an unsuccessful period of time, ultimately, in how we judge their success.
So Hyypiä, I fully accept, was a very consistent, very strong player.
Was it circumstance that made him
better? I think. But then again, that shows your strength, doesn't it? If you're always being attacked and you consistently are able to defend, he might have not looked so good if he was in this current Liverpool team. Because he would probably disappear behind Trent and all the rest of it. I think Hyypiä is cannot compete with the others that we're talking about for longevity as well, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue. Of the two centre backs,
longevity. He was there for 10 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was just thinking of his he was there, wasn't he?
And actually got 35 goals. In 464 appearances.
When you say that, it's quite good, isn't
Sounds good. Stats always sound great. I love stats because you can ignore the truth and just look at the numbers.
Yeah. I wonder how many of those were like corners or... Because he wasn't a free kick or penalty guy, was he?
No, he wasn't.
So he scored them.
Yeah.
All right. So, sorry, Sammy.
Sammy's out.
Good stats there. I still maintain that these two centre-backs got to be between Ferdinand, Vidic, Stam or Steve Bruce. They're the four.
Well, you've got Ferdinand on there, so Ferdinand's in.
Yeah. So you've put Ferdinand, your other centre back.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know Rio Ferdinand, you I guess wouldn't have seen the consistency that he was fast. Oh. He went forward with the ball. You talk about Alisson with the ball. Ferdinand was like something different. And what we had Ferdinand with his pace and his speed. If anything ever got past Vidic. Ferdinand was behind to get it, and Ferdinand went up, and it was just incredible. And we signed him from Leeds. He had this amazing season at Leeds, and he came to United and was like, "What are we signing Leeds players for?"
It's like 40 million or something stupid at the time. He was like the world's most expensive defender or something. So he had all that pressure to deal with.
And he did, didn't he? And I think he was we had a couple of years where we didn't win anything when he first came, and then when you get Vidic in there, like that was a partnership. All right, so when you're looking at individuals, I can see, but those two together, I don't think there's a better partnership. You know, we've had Bruce Pallister, Bjornaby, whatever it is, Hippier.
Yeah.
But those two, if you see them on the pitch, you knew full well that no one was scoring. And then you put Van der Sar behind them, the 2008 Champions League final against Chelsea. You know, that year generally, I don't think that was a particularly good team. It was I can't believe that we even won the Champions League that year. But we did.
Because that was the chemistry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't. There were no massive superstars as such. It wasn't like look at all these, all these big names. It was a team that was pulling for each other.
Yeah, I often found that about United though. Even in those years where we won everything, we only ever had one or two superstars.
Yeah,
we had Blomqvist, Erwin. We had average players, but they worked really hard. I nearly said Solskjaer's average, but he is my absolute hero. Nothing can take that away from me. I know we're not going to get Ollie.
We're not going to do subs bench, are we?
No, we're not going to get Ollie on this list. But for me, what a guy! But I'll give him a bit of a moment later. So okay, we need to agree. We go with Ferdinand because we've all said Ferdinand should be there for his defending, his attacking, his ball control. Now we're arguing Van Dijk versus Stam, Bruce.
You'd put Vidic with Ferdinand.
Yeah, I would concede Vidic.
So because of the partnership.
Yeah,
Those two, you need a spine to your team. If we look at it objectively,
that just feels wrong.
It does feel wrong.
I know. I mean, but Van Dijk in that team, he would have been the Ferdinand, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
That's the kind of player that he was. I think Van Dijk, for me, while he's a very good defender, I don't think you get the consistency. Even this year, where you are absolutely doing amazing, he's been at fault a few times for some things, and you've been lucky. You've been escaped. There's a couple of, I think, VARs have come to save him.
Yeah.
That's this year when you're flying. In fact, you're not even flying yet, and you're second or whatever it is now, third, I think, aren't you?
Third, yeah.
He's a great defender when he's great. What worries me about Van Dijk and Trent is when you're under the cosh. Like, I think 90% of your games this year, you've gone behind. Or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
The statistic is quite worrying for Liverpool, whereas that never happened with Vidic and Ferdinand. We never went behind ever. And if we did, it was once, and then we'd go and score 7 because you angered the beast or something. Whereas this year and last year, in fact, even the year before, I know a lot of people going about Liverpool because that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had some decisions, but you were still going behind early, just that you were so good. You know that you're going to score 4. Like you had a 4-0 head start against that Liverpool team a couple of years ago.
Oh, Barcelona had a 3-0 head start.
Yeah, and that's that. That's what we were saying at the beginning about how these big clubs, there are only Liverpool and Manchester United, aren't they? They are proper clubs with heritage, with fight, and it's because of who they are that you come back against that Barcelona team, because there's all the history behind it, the fans in the crowd, on the Kop. I've been on the Kop. I'm not a Liverpool fan at all, but the atmosphere there because of what it is. Whereas you look at the Etihad, they're bouncing about when they're winning 8-0 every week, but when, like you saw at the weekend, they couldn't get them to shout. Pep's out there screaming at them. So that's where I think these two clubs, where we'll all agree probably, very special.
Yeah.
They represent the city. They're working class clubs, aren't they? That was all people had up north was the football teams, Newcastle as well. Although I'm disappointed what's happened there. As much as I like the way they play, they were a working man's club, weren't they? A working class club.
Now they've joined City with all that.
Yeah, and they'll win stuff and they'll be brilliant. And I like them as a team, and I like the manager.
They was always like everyone's favourite second club, pretty much.
Yeah. But there's still some real history there, and those fans probably, if we go aside from all the politics of it, the fans probably deserve a bit. They're amazing up there, aren't they, the Geordie fans?
Absolutely.
Anyway, so
Ferdinand, Vidic, so left back.
Okay, so you've said Robbo.
You've not even chosen my favourite Liverpool left back.
Who is it? Bjornaby?
No. It's Jonan Arisa.
Oh, Risa, free
back.
kick. That free kick expert, wasn't he?
It was just immense. What was he? Not Norwegian.
Yeah, he was Norwegian.
Was he Norwegian? just
Yeah.
ginger haired guy, so quick down the left. Yeah, could whip in a free kick. He was just
That left foot, definitely. Wow.
it was it was there for 7 years.
Even when he went to Roma afterwards, didn't he? And he was even brilliant there.
He was doing bits at Roma. He played 348 times, scored 31 goals.
Wow. I thought he scored more, to be honest. He scored that many
He always
free
felt
kicks.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
He was just
He's a bit like Roberto Carlos in that sense, wasn't he? You know, when he was about to take a free kick, chances are it was going in.
yeah.
The power behind it. So you've gone for Robbo because of his attacking?
Consistency, attacking. Him and Trent, left back and right back, are like the perfect duo, in the sense that Trent is more attacking and will get the balls in to people in the middle. But the thing that Robbo has that Trent doesn't is he can defend better.
This is true.
Yeah.
He's so consistent at left back. You sometimes forget about how good he is because he's overshadowed by like Trent.
Mm-hmm.
But he is so consistent, and he has the attacking like ability, and he's also extremely solid left back.
All right. So if we're criticising Trent for not being consistent, we need to give Robbo. He even makes Scotland look good, doesn't he?
Oh.
When Robbo plays.
Obviously, that injury, I know they were already through, but that injury I was disappointed that he couldn't finish
Absolutely.
the European Championship, qualifiers. But yeah, he's lifted their game.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, he came off the back of being relegated with Hull.
Yeah.
So when Liverpool bought this guy, they were like, why are they buying this guy? But when I look at him, and if I'm trying to think of a Man United player who, again, was tidy, and often Sir Alex has said, one of the best players he's ever worked with, it's like that Dennis Irwin character. And you just look at someone who is just week in, week out, that you could almost hang your hat on this guy and go, a Dennis Irwin character or a Robbo character, because you don't hear of many mistakes that Robbo has made.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Trent, there's a lot more focus on Trent because he likes to push on and he's got that more attacking mindset. So everyone will pick at the defensive frailties or the perceived frailties of his defensive play. But you don't hear much negativity about Robbo.
No. Irwin, I was going to mention Irwin. I mean, he's not going to be in our team, but consistency and all of those, everything you've just said. But he too was a free kick expert.
Yeah.
And he took our penalties. I think he probably scored more than some of our midfielders. But it's that player, isn't it, that you just know when you put him on the team sheet, you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't believe. I think he's a great guy. He's honest and hardworking. You say Reset. I would put Reset in more than Robbo for that attack and flair, but that ability to grab a free kick. It's probably worth maybe 7-8 points a season.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're going to get that, but I still taking Dennis Irwin out. For me, the best left back in the entire history of the Premier League is Patrice Evra. And I just think, I think I'd put him close to Ashley Cole. Those two as the left backs. I think for me, in Premier League era, they're the two best. And it was about, he was a winger at wing back. He'd be there at the back and he'd be at the top of the pitch within 20 seconds. He worked with Giggs. He was just, and obviously won the World Cup with France. He just was utterly amazing. For pace, he's the first, I would say, superstar left back I think that the Premier League had seen. Ashley Cole is definitely up there. I get that Robbo's reliable and stuff. I'm Scottish, so I would want Robbo in this team. But I love McTominay as well, and he is not getting in the team with me.
No.
So for Patrice Evra, he was an outlet. He was a midfielder. He was a goal scorer. He overlapped. He underlapped. He could go anywhere. And when you put him on man marking, he could do that. To me, I'll be arguing who's the best, Ashley Cole or Patrice Evra. And if that's the case, in this case, because we're doing Liverpool and Manchester United. Sorry.
The thing is, I thought you were going to go for Irwin, so that's why I was like, right. Because everyone says Irwin. I'd forgotten about Evra.
Yeah.
And what a player, what a human being. He's just always comes across as one of the nicest people you're going to meet.
James,
you need to check him out on YouTube.
No.
Everything you've just said, I was just like, oh no, I'd forgotten about Evra.
He's my star card because I've not heard anything. I was like, ready.
I should have just gone in and done my Man United research as well. But absolutely Evra.
Okay, you agree with that, James? Sorry.
Well, midfield will be easy.
Well,
we'll see. So before we go into midfield, let's just check what we got. We got Schmeichel in goal, Evra left back, Ferdinand, Vidic, and Trent. That's quite surprising because obviously we're talking about the current Liverpool team. They're amazing. None of the United players probably could get in that Liverpool team at the moment. However, it's been a close fight though. Van Dijk is very close, like really close. I think Evra has the star quality that just sort of pips him there. So let's go midfielder. You've gone from your formation 3 midfielders.
Yeah, so it's a 4-3-3.
Okay.
So Gerrard, Scholes, and Beckham. I don't think there needs to be a debate. Gerrard and Scholes kind of are the two, for me. Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard are the 3 best English midfielders we've ever seen in the Prem.
Why?
They're so good with the ball. They can pass it like from any.
Scholes can put a ball on a 50 pence piece 20 miles away.
They basically have everything you want for a midfielder. The passing, shooting ability, it's defensive ability in most cases.
Okay, so I think Scholes is incredible. What we're saying about Robbo, I don't think he had the superstar. He was a player who got his head down and just worked. I think for passing, long passing, switching the play, I don't think there's many better than him for that. I do agree that he's one of the best midfielders. I'm just trying to think if we're playing 3 in the middle here, we've got to be careful. We're limited, aren't we? Gerrard, I would say he didn't win anything apart from that treble, but it doesn't really count because it was like the UEFA Cup,
apart from
wasn't
the
it?
Champions League and the FA Cup.
Yeah, didn't do anything.
The Gerrard's FA Cup final in 2006.
He never scored any last-minute winners. He never lifted the team against Milan.
He didn't lift the team with a header when they're 3-0 down. He didn't sort of drag them kicking and screaming for every season he played for them.
He wasn't the kind of captain you need when you're down, was he? So I'll give you Gerrard. He's
got to be. In doing some research online, they've even put him ahead of someone like Dalglish as Liverpool's most influential player. And it's easy now he's retired, because at the time when they're playing, you just can't wait for the next game. And obviously everyone has that benefit of hindsight. You're a history teacher, so you're looking back on the events and you go, why didn't he leave and take the money at Chelsea?
Yeah. And that's why I was going to say that's why he's in there, because of that loyalty. Like both Gerrard and Scholes are local boys, aren't they? Who grew up in the area. I grew up in Huyton where Gerrard grew up. And that has power, doesn't it? Because you're right, they could have went anywhere. Both of them could have went anywhere.
Both had opportunities.
Yeah, the amount of players from Europe, like those Milan superstars who've said that Scholes, they couldn't play him against them and all the rest of it. When you're getting credit like that from some of these international European superstars, Gerrard, absolutely, and I'd even say captain. Like, I'm not even disputing that. In this team, you can have him and he can be the captain. So yeah, we've got Scholes there. So who else we got? Really, it's hard to come to mind. Isn't it?
You're missing a bit of grit. Where's the Roy Keanes?
Roy Keane, Brian Robson. Oh, he's like not quite.
Brian Robson was on the cusp, wasn't he? I don't think he made it into the Prem.
See, I want to say, and this is difficult for me because you've gone for the 3 in midfield. For me, it's Keane or Scholes. Scholes for his creativity, but if you've got Gerrard who's going forward, if you've got Keane in there in front of that centre back, those two centre backs,
it's like Keane or Beckham, because Beckham would be playing a cam, and then Keane would be playing a CDM if they were to switch.
Yeah, but it's that captain thing again. When you're down, we were down against Inter Milan. He crops up every time we needed Keane. He was there.
And if you wanted anyone's leg broken, Keane was also there.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a liability in that sense. But he actually didn't have as many red cards as you might think.
No.
I just watched a video, funnily enough, just at a weekend of himself talking about all of his red cards. Some of them was like, deserved it. Yeah, but he was that character, wasn't he? That guy in the trenches that you need when the chips are down. Just like Gerrard, when you look around and you're struggling and you see him screaming at you, my God, the motivation there. But would that slow the team down, having Gerrard and Keane in the same team?
Well, it depends how agile you want to be, yeah.
Yes.
Keane wasn't known for his speed.
Nope.
I'd look at someone like, well, there were so many. If I go a little bit further back, you got your Jan Molby's world, you got your Deep Harman, Alonso. Alonso for me is one of my favourite players for Liverpool ever, and he's currently top of the Bundesliga with Leverkusen. And I really hope that if Klopp's you know, Klopp's contract comes to an end in a couple of years, that he's got the experience, because I'd love to see. He was just majestic to watch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think he was there long enough, was he?
Just
What's
check.
his
5
years?
years he
5
was there.
years.
5 years.
So these guys here, we're talking 10, 11, 12, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Oh, well, with Gerrard, it was.
They came through the system, haven't they? I suppose what it comes down to, Scholes' vision.
Yeah.
You know, to pick a pass, and I suppose it depends on what we're going up with up front. Because Scholes can pick what you've got at the moment is you've got Ronaldo on the left and Salah on the right.
Yeah.
We'll do strikers. That's going to take an hour on its own, I think.
Well, you got Crouchy up front. You know, you don't need anyone else, because obviously if they're whipping the balls in, he's he's tall enough.
And that's where you'd want Scholes, isn't it? But then you've got Beckham for that in this team.
What I just thought is, if we do want to put Keane in, I could put Ronaldo into the middle and put Beckham on the left. I know
Beckham would need to be on the right.
Well, okay, we could put Salah on the left and Beckham on the right, and then put Keane in the middle. But there's so many good strikers, I don't think that would be.
And in your team, we've got one striker,
Yeah.
which is controversial, James.
Well,
When you think about the amazing strikers that we've got, but what we'll do is we'll mess around with the formation, because we can't have one striker. There's two teams.
God,
I just did it based off probably the most used formation or the
FIFA.
used tactic.
The FIFA formation. That's the City formation, isn't it?
It's like 4-3-3. It's the new-ish tactics.
And I suppose you've got your wing back play as well,
Yeah.
is what essentially gives you.
So
the
now,
extra
if you've got
forward.
your wing backs, do you need your Beckham on the right?
No, a lot of people. So, all right, so Gerrard and
Skulls.
Scholes.
Gerrard and Scholes, I think they're in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's. Beckham
Weirdly,
or
we're
Keane.
questioning whether or not you'd have David Beckham in your team.
Yeah,
Who's
which
won
is crazy, isn't it?
4 titles in 4 different countries. One of the few people to do that. Obviously, the global icon stuff. I remember him going all the way through. But does it mean that he still gets a place in your team? I don't know, because you've got Trent blasting.
Because what I want to put in there is, if we're having this right wing and Salah, it's difficult to say, because Beckham would be my argument
Right
for
wing.
right wing, but I don't think he can compete with Salah. The guy is a genius. So I cannot think at the top of my head right now at all. But what into the Beckham here, and you're slightly Cam, is I'd want Rooney in there.
Oh, now there's a shout.
I'd be quite happy to lose Beckham to Rooney.
I still want an Alonso in there.
I think for you it's Alonso, and then
I've got a list of people I wanted in there. I wanted a Gini Wijnaldum in there.
he is really like, if we're going Wijnaldum, then Origi would have to be a shout for striker, just because of that. Like but like in a Champions League, if you
Those
if you want
two, the
super-
Barcelona game, and Origi is a bit like a Solskjaer. He was great impact player. Chuck him on for the last 20, 25 minutes, and he'll nick you a goal in time added on. And he became obviously a legend because of that
That's
against
exactly what
Everton,
happened,
and so on and so
Solskjaer did
forth.
the same, that one goal.
Solskjaer did in obviously 99 for the treble. Nick's in, him and Sheringham, the new SAS at the time, popped in. But I wouldn't have Origi up front.
No, I'm not
this
saying
starting 11.
I'm not saying Origi goes up.
But even in that team, like with Wijnaldum, he was obviously a really good player, but
he wouldn't get in there.
No.
not and it's because I think it's because he was in a good team where, he was just in a good team, and that almost made them look better. Whereas some of these guys, they were, even when it was up and down, they were still there,
still
and they
performing,
were still good.
You got John Barnes. If you're going, he was Premier League era. He was there for 10 years.
And what an inspiration to so many people.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of abuse that he had to put up with in his early days when he swapped from Watford to Liverpool.
Yeah.
There were European matches where they're throwing bananas at him, but that's a totally different conversation about football.
I think because he was quite big at the end. I mean, him and Molby probably the two heaviest midfielders.
Exactly, because Molby was on my list as well. It's like, I used to idolise Molby because his play, and
It was
Stevie
simple,
Nicol.
wasn't it? Yeah, it was just simple. Steve Nicol, There's some real classic players here, aren't there? But I guess
they can't get into that team.
we're drawn by the superstar, them, aren't they? And I suppose why I would maybe argue that we swap Beckham out for Rooney is he's Manchester United's greatest goal scorer ever.
Yeah.
He gets back and fights, so he would be the Keane that we're looking for. He is literally everywhere. You see his goal when he went over to America and he tackled in his own half and got to the end of the pitch. That's what he did all the time. And to go to Manchester United and become the person who scores the most goals. When you think about the strikers we've had,
Yeah.
you know, the bests and all those people over the year, he's got to be on your pitch, hasn't he? Because Rooney Prime could make anything of anything.
Yeah.
In that central attacking bit.
Yeah.
And then that gives you Salah on right wing.
Well, that's a trade. You know,
Sounds
and
good.
Salah being on the right wing, he's not even a striker, and look at the amount of goals he's got.
Yeah.
Mm.
He's a winger.
As a anti-Liverpool fan, so it's really painful for me to give you a lot of this today, but when he's on the pitch, when you see his name on the pitch, you know full well he's gonna score, and he invariably does, doesn't he?
Mhm.
Every single game he scores. You just know whether it's fluky or people will argue he's such a spawny player, but I don't agree with that, because if you're not in the position to get the penalties or pushing yourself for the dribble, you don't get the look, do you?
No.
And he seems to be like such a decent fella.
Yeah.
Works hard, never does anything in the media.
Mm.
I can't argue with it. I would only argue Beckham and Salah, but I still would have given you Salah even with Beckham, because Beckham can pick a pass anywhere, but so can he.
Wasn't
and he
as
makes
prolific,
more.
yeah.
Yeah. That's just all he had, wasn't it? Was that right foot, that penalty, free kick or pass.
And then, you know, they always talk about Salah being quite selfish. It's like, well, A, that's part of the position, but also the amount of assists that he did give to Firmino and Mane. I think there was always more weight put onto the amount of assists that Mane or Firmino were given to him. But if you look at Bobby, you know, Bobby's not even in the team. And what a player Bobby was as that conduit for that link-up play and everything. So Mo has benefited from that, but fundamentally he's a right winger and he's got over 200 goals now.
Yeah, he's just insane, isn't he?
Yeah.
So James, we've got a problem. We've got the greatest player the world has ever seen in Cristiano Ronaldo.
Except for Messi. But that's a different debate.
Well, that is an older debate, and in this case, Messi never came to the Premier League, or Ryan Giggs. Now Ryan Giggs, you know, the numbers, the appearances, the championships that he won everything, and he just kept going. All we take out is indiscretion at the end of his career with his personal life, because I think it's not, we're judging them.
We're
as
judging the professional
players.
life, yeah.
This guy won more than Ronaldo, gave more to United than Ronaldo. He's won everything we've ever won. I don't know what it is, something like, I don't know, 28, 29 trophies.
Pretty much, he was pretty much there for every single Premier League championship.
I think he scored in every league, hasn't he, for like, I think 14 years or something stupid like that. So appearances for United, I think, what's he up to? He's the leader, isn't he? Maybe 600-700, I don't know, whatever it is. Ronaldo's the greatest player ever, but was he there long enough? And I'm arguing about Man United players here. I'm going to lose one or the other here, aren't I? I mean, I don't think you've got a left winger who can compete with Giggs or Ronaldo.
I would say Mane, but I don't think he was there long enough.
No, and that's even if it's similar to Ronaldo. Mane, you cannot argue, was amazing.
Yeah, quickest hat trick in Premier League history. Yeah. But no, when I looked at that left wing, it's like there's Giggs as a first name, even as a Liverpool supporter.
He just because of
the speed when he burst on the scene. What was he subbing that FA Cup match or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
He burst onto the scene from so young, homegrown, obviously from Wales, but sort of essentially homegrown with United all the way through. Ronaldo, when he first started for United, was pants. He was too he wanted to be a show pony. Yeah. And actually got a really bad reputation in England for probably the first couple of seasons. He'd be falling over, diving, spending too long, trying to do more step overs than were needed. And, you know, Fergie had a hell of a job to rein him in. But because he respected Fergie, and that's where we get to the influence of the manager later on, is he suddenly, you know, the next season sharpened himself up.
And then he was incredible.
And then he then had some great seasons before he obviously went off to Madrid.
I think he was good at United and he was incredible at Madrid.
Madrid, yeah.
And Juve and everywhere else he's been.
And then when he came back to United, he was amazing.
He was. I mean, I don't buy into this idea that he destroyed the team.
No, he didn't.
He expected them to rise to his levels and they weren't willing to do that. It's where I'd go with that.
I hate that because Ten Hag, that was the biggest mistake they made because you don't have a goal scorer now. And I know he has a massive ego and that is probably his problem.
The problem with Ten Hag is the problem we've had for the last 6 managers is the players ruled the dressing room.
Yeah.
And that can never be the case. That was never the case with Fergie. And what Ten Hag is trying to do is say, I don't get it right all the time, but I am the boss.
Yeah.
And for us to have any chance, which is what's happened with Liverpool, you're 30 years of not winning anything. You had decent managers, lovely guys, good guys, but Fowler and all those people, they were running that club, weren't they? And that's where we've been for the last 6 years. And Ten Hag is not going to be our long-term manager. You can see that. Although in saying that, we've won 6 of the last 7 and we're like 6 points off top. How that's happened, I don't know. We won last year, obviously, the cup, but he's changing things. But I know exactly what you're saying in regards to letting Ronaldo go, but Ronaldo was more influential than him, and you just can't have that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't like what happened with Ronaldo because he's my hero, one of my heroes, him and Solskjaer, but that is the case, isn't it? And if we've got any chance of winning anything ever again, consistently look at Klopp. Klopp runs that
You've got to do it as a team,
isn't it?
Yeah.
So when there's a few people who want to leave, it's almost a case of off you go then.
Off you go.
Because if not, it creates imbalance.
The one thing that did really annoy me though, they took all of his stuff down, like all of his statues and stuff down from the stadium.
Ronaldo is secure as a legend at United. It's just, and the fans know that what Ronaldo was saying was true. The infrastructure in the club is a joke. They still got the same gym as when he was last there. The canteen's the same. United is a mess at the moment, and it's behind the scenes that the problem is, isn't it? All right. So, yeah. What do you think? I think we should. I'm going to say Giggs for Ronaldo for consistency and impact.
Yeah.
Same.
So we crossed that one off there then. All right. Giggsy Wigsy is in there. All right. So where we are now is our midfield. We've got Gerrard and Scholes and Rooney. So Rooney is a cam. Giggs on the left, Salah on the right.
Yeah.
No denying that. So how many United players so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got some work to do for the strikers then. So go first, strikers.
Right. I'm going to hand it to you because you probably have more notes on strikers. I've got my ideas, but I'll let
Well, for an out and out striker, I've got too many names and not enough positions. So if I was going to go for like legend, most goals ever scored for Liverpool, the Welsh wizard before Giggsy, Mr. Ian Rush, who played in both obviously the old First Division and the Premier League. He obviously went off to Juventus for a season as well, came back to Liverpool. That guy was my idol, the number 9, growing up. Amount of goals the guy got, 346 goals, 660 appearances. So he's pretty much a goal every other game. He won single-handedly outside of this, the 1986 double at the FA Cup when they'd gone a goal down, and he was instrumental in sort of dragging the team back through. Rushy was all about goals. But I was also lucky enough at Anfield to see Fernando Torres.
Mm-hmm.
And that
superstar.
Oh my God, you've never seen anyone like it. So you had Torres and then you had Suarez afterwards, and we had a mediocre team, but yet we had these sort of, next level players. And I'm thinking, well, if you've got Torres and you've got Suarez and you've got Rushy, it's like, where the hell did we go? We've got Salah, so we're lucky with Salah.
What about Robbie Fowler?
Well, he's on my list as well. He was nicknamed God.
Yeah.
And he was the Toxters Terrier. He was a homegrown lad. Yes, he went off to a few other clubs, but he came back for the 06-07 season. We all thought it was Owen coming back from Madrid, but Owen had joined Newcastle because Newcastle outbid Liverpool. Liverpool wanted him back, but didn't want to pay an extra 10 million for him over and above what they'd sold him for. So they did a very cute little deal and they brought Fowler back for a season. He was not a patch of where he was, but the feeling that it had in that dressing room and the, watching it, having Fowler back in the team was like, wow, this guy's amazing. And Fowler's stats, 183 goals. He basically didn't, 50% roughly of what Rushy got, but the impact Fowler had up front. And again, in this day and age in the Premier League, he was probably the most natural, goal scorer around. Yes, then he had his indiscretions, sniffing the line at one of the derbies and baiting the other teams.
That was the passion, though.
He was something else.
Yeah,
Fowler.
I think for kids today watching the Premier League to not see somebody like Fowler, natural. I think everyone would probably agree he's probably the most natural striker ever.
Just
right
Yeah.
place, right time. Left foot was insane.
And again, he wasn't a global superstar. He wasn't chasing the limelight. The nearest they got to it was the FA Cup final when we're all in those white suits and got beat by Wimbledon or somebody. And the Spice Girls sort of hung around for a little bit. And, Jamie Redknapp was his mate and he was off with someone from a girl band called Eternal, which you can look up later.
Classic band.
Louise Nerding, absolutely fair play. But Fowler wasn't sort of chasing that limelight either. He was quite happy to.
I think he definitely didn't want it, did he? That was part of who the guy was.
He would rock up for training in his Mark III Ford Escort.
Yeah. He was, even for me, I mean, obviously growing up in Liverpool, it always means more when the local lads come through because they just care more, don't they? You see it on the picture, they care more.
But as a number 9, you'd have him as a number 9. Now, Torres was a number 9. I had Dirk Kuyt on my list, but he wasn't a number 9. Brilliant player. Rushy, obviously, were number 9. Luis Suarez, was he 9 or did he play off a 10? Can't quite remember now.
I think he was quite versatile, wasn't he?
But Suarez as well could change a game, and Norwich hated playing him because I think he played him about 4 times.
Every time he scored in every game, didn't he?
Yeah, I think over the 4 or 5 games he averaged something like
I've
12
seen the
or 13
highlights.
goals.
I don't need to reimagine.
But then Suarez had that discipline issue. So would I want to risk the fact he might get sent off?
And he most certainly will have done, especially getting towards the end. That is one hell of a list of strikers that you've just gone through there.
But Torres, and it is a list, issue with Torres is when he left Liverpool, was he good because of people like Alonso and Louis Garcia and Gerrard feeding him? Because when he got to Chelsea for £50 million, couldn't hit a barn door from 3 yards.
What I would say about Torres, that first season, I was like, holy hell.
Yeah.
Second season, he was nothing. Everyone knew how to deal with him. And I think if you look at the stats, probably first season, he scored like 38 goals or something. Second season, nowhere.
Well, you look, he was there 4 years and only ended up with 81. So if he scored 31 in the first season, he then had 3 mediocre seasons.
Yeah, and they were mediocre. And that second season syndrome is the thing we talk about, isn't it? But he was poor. And that's only because he was so good in the first. I mean, he was probably amazing in the second, third and fourth, but because he was so far from how he came in.
Yeah.
So that's your list.
Come on, then.
One more I want to mention, because you didn't really mention him properly, Michael Owen.
See, Michael Owen was on my list. And then when I started going through the players, because obviously Michael played for both.
Yeah. I think he probably won more for us than he won for you, didn't he?
Absolutely. And that's probably why he went there. He wanted to have something in his trophy cabinet. And he's quite a divisive character, because I like Michael Owen,
When he burst on the scene.
The England goal against Argentina, which actually he just robbed off Scholesy because Scholesy was then going to hit it and he wouldn't let him. But either way, he burst on the scene, young lad, the last English player to get the Ballon d'Or in 2001. Yeah.
He was like a boy just having fun, wasn't he? And pace, power. He was incredible, absolutely incredible. For winning stuff, if he was, I mean, he's obviously not going to make any of our list today, but he would be for United that I would be saying he was more of a success, not just because he won things, but he came as an older player, with a bit more baggage and into a very poor United team, although we won the league. The Fergie left, how he won the league with that team, I'll never know.
I think he cemented it with a goal against City as well. Yeah. People kind of came round to him. A lot of Liverpool people hated him because he went to United.
That last minute, wasn't it?
But Ince went obviously from United to Milan and then over to Liverpool. Yeah. There's probably been about 4 or 5 players that have done it in the whole history.
Ince is dead to me.
But the thing with Owen is he was never really the same player when he got back to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And reading his couple of books, the amount of injuries he had, the amount of sort of being too fast, too young and not letting everything develop caused him a load of issues. And a load of injuries, but he had that expectation. And United, he did play. He had a nice little, sort of renaissance as such in the United team. Took on the number 7 shirt, big responsibility.
That was disgusting. That was.
But he's not a number 9.
No, you're right. So out of that list, then, who are you putting forward?
It depends. Do you do your head or your heart? It's Fowler or Rush for me.
Fowler or Rush.
And I think really, I'd 346 goals to 183. I'd be like, well, it should be Rushy, but I'd want Fowler there.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I saw Rushy at the end of his pomp,
Yeah.
and obviously saw Fowler at the beginning, you're kind of like, well, you want prime Fowler up front because you know that if someone pings the ball in,
He's going to score.
he's going to get it.
All right. Do you concur, or have you got a Torres or?
No, I think I concur.
So we need to hear the United players. So
here's
we've had
my list.
Solskjaer, we've had Owen.
So as we've got, we haven't even mentioned Mascherano in midfield for you.
Didn't really play long enough for me. I saw him play. I saw him score one of his 2 goals that he got for Liverpool. I saw Mascher play Reading in about 2007,
Mr. Barcelona
2008.
become like the greatest player ever.
Yeah, he dropped back though.
Yeah,
he
that's
dropped back
true.
from the midfield position. And yeah, blinding player. But we had him for what, 2 seasons? He scored 2 goals. He wasn't a roaring success.
No.
He was a phenomenal player, but I wouldn't.
I think
have
I'm
him.
saying that based on his Barcelona career, really, because yeah, you're right. I've got a big smile on my face for this list because even though you're saying that, I'm just going to say these words and then we'll talk. Rooney, we've got
Rooney, you got, yeah.
Ruud van Nistelrooy. This is the machine, just
yeah,
a machine.
Rude, yeah.
Robin van
I
Persie,
was going to say Van Persie will make an
Short-
appearance.
short time.
Short stint, but big impact.
yeah. Dwight York, Andy Cole that year, the 1999 year, the interplay, the 1-2s.
But you
they
can
just
only have
connected.
one. So if it was just one of them up front, would they
I'd
be a
say
bit
Andy
lonely?
Cole.
Yeah.
Um,
Did really well, obviously, at Newcastle
Yeah.
as well.
out of them two, Mark Hughes.
Of course, Sparky was more of a 10 than a 9,
Yeah,
though, wasn't
that's
he?
true.
Great player.
Obviously, we mentioned earlier Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think that you could say about that one goal and all the rest of it, and our super sub and all the rest of it. But if you look at his statistics, I am convinced he got in the hundreds of goals, but only in the hundreds of games. I think his goals per game was about 1.8,
Yeah.
which is, when you think about the strikers that he was in that team with, to be that consistent. Obviously,
Baby-faced assassin, and obviously
Absolutely.
one of your idols.
I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
Absolutely love him. And I love him more for that Newcastle game where he chased back and took a red card. Just took that guy out just because he knew that we needed that to happen.
Yeah.
And that's cheating. But because it was him and because he's this innocent little baby face that no one saw that coming and he got up and he walked off. But the 99 goal,
Yeah.
I watched it. I cried. I had goosebumps. It was the most incredible thing. Probably similar to your comeback in Milan, although we were in the 90th minute when
Yeah.
we scored the first
Well, it
one.
was time added. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
time added
it
on.
was
It was
just-
Sheringham first, wasn't it? And then
Yeah.
Solskjaer.
So 90 Sheringham, 93 Solskjaer.
I remember watching it, and it
Um,
was just nuts.
it's probably the greatest night of my life, certainly football wise. But yeah, those numbers, that 1.8 goals per game compared to Fowler, he's even better than Fowler
Yeah.
in that sense. Was never the superstar, and even as a manager, I thought he was a good guy. He's dealing with but he's too early in his career to be dealing with these kind of players. But I'm going to just pull out the one, and this is about influence, and this is about changing the culture of an entire club. This is about goals when it mattered. One goal every game, but it was the winning goal. Eric Cantona.
He was a 7, wasn't he?
He's playing that middle bit, isn't he?
I can't give you Eric Cantona.
Okay, but
I'd have Cantona instead of Rooney.
Oh, that's a good shout.
I'd pull him that little bit further back. I remember the goal, probably the one that is etched in your brain against Liverpool, where he just sort of seemingly just from nowhere looped it over the top, and you're like, how did he get his body into position
Yeah.
to get the power and the dip on that ball to go in?
Yeah,
And he just bossed it. He had his collar popped up.
he was amazing.
He just looked so arrogant. Obviously, there's the
He was,
infamous
though, wasn't he?
Crystal Palace
Yeah.
match
Kicked the
as
fan.
well. Kung Fu kicked
Kung
the
Fu
fan.
kicked the fan.
But fair play,
Took it, didn't he?
yeah, he owned it.
All right.
It was. I would throw a curveball in and say drop Rooney for Cantona
Or
and stick Fowler up front.
you put Rooney striker and then Cantona.
No.
But then Rooney's
Well, for
Not.
goals, Rooney's the top goal scorer, isn't he?
Still would have Fowler.
See, for Cantona, as much as he's the one who set United on that.
He did.
He was only there for a couple of years.
It was like
and
£1 million
went.
quid from Leeds. Everyone went, why have they spent £1 million
Yeah.
quid on this guy? And he just
So what
lifted
I'll,
the team.
What I'll do is I'll concede Cantona, but give Ferguson the credit for Cantona. He took the risk on that guy.
Yeah.
Because he'd caused trouble at Leeds, hadn't he?
Oh, yeah,
Trouble
yeah.
he'd ever been.
Yeah.
And he came to us, and he's the one who kick-started United's thing, but he was gone. Like, he had a year off for kicking that fan, and then he'd come back after a year, and he'd retired just because he's nuts.
Yeah.
So he can't
Started
be in this
writing
team.
poetry. But you look at some of the elements of what made Cantona, and you see that later on with people like Suarez, that they would do stupid things, but they had this mercurial talent.
Yeah.
So you kind of went, it's okay he kicked that Crystal Palace fan because he's brilliant. Oh, it's okay he's biting every other player that he's coming up against because he's got great talent.
Yeah.
I still want... I'm not going to budge
So
on
you're
Fowler up
putting
front.
Fowler. I'm going
Yeah.
to put Fowler against Van Nistelrooy.
What was he, 1-2 seasons?
So
How can that compete?
clinical superstar, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And if we were looking at a Liverpool-Arsenal team, I would absolutely have Van Persie in
So
there.
Fowler for his influence and the team on the fans and his goal scoring.
How can you be that revered and not in the team?
This is
His
true.
fans called him God.
We've got superstar strikers United have had, haven't they? And Fowler was never that, but
No.
he was something bigger, wasn't he?
I think he transcended that. He didn't need to be a global superstar and chase the money. He was just the man.
Robbie Fowler, it is.
Super job.
That's that guy up the top. So where we've ended up with is Schmeichel in goal, Evra left back, Ferdinand, Vidic and Trent, Gerrard, Rooney and Scholes, Giggs, Salah and Fowler. That's a frightening team, isn't it?
That would batter Man City.
That is a frightening team.
It's a great team. And, even as a Liverpool supporter, I've got to concede that defence, you'd be like...
And that's what I think allowed the fact that we had such a strong defence and goalkeeper allowed the forward players to play with a bit more freedom. Yeah. And that's why we dominated, because
absolutely
the fluidity of the forwards, like, I don't know if you put them out as a 4-4-2 or whatever, but it could be a 4-1-1. They were just so, and that's why Cole and York played so well together.
They played brilliantly,
move side. How do you man mark them? You put your right centre back against Andy Cole, but then he's on the left, and then 20 minutes later. That's why. And then Sheringham was obviously just the brains of the thing. When we got Sheringham, I think it was probably his best years. He come from Tottenham as a great player, but he's always was ahead of the game.
Yeah.
What his speed lacked, his brain didn't.
But that lack of speed helped his longevity, because he played into his early 40s. Obviously, he dropped down a few leagues, but he
kept going, didn't he?
Still carried on.
Oh, right. Managers.
Wow.
We joked about Big Ron before, but he was a character that United needed at the time, didn't it? Because we'd gone, 28 years at that point?
They needed a lift, and he did give them that lift. But, you can't look beyond Sir Alex. I look at the influence that Klopp has had, and he hasn't obviously got the longevity of Sir Alex, obviously, because that was 20-odd years. But he did a speech back in 2015 when he declared himself as the normal one, and sort of laid out his mission statement and said, in the next 5 years we'll win a Premier League. And he wanted to turn the doubters into believers. And he was so tuned in that, I've been supporting Liverpool for years, and suddenly this guy made me care again. Because until then it was results coming through, and some weeks it would be good, some weeks it wouldn't be good. And to the point that you sort of tuned out, you weren't so worried. You'd just check it and go, oh, where are we in the table? Oh, we're nowhere. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to get relegated. Never mind, let's carry on.
Try and get into Europe.
But when Kloppy came in as a supporter, you cared again. And I think Fergie had maybe a more difficult start, because he was obviously a couple of games away from being binned off, if you believe the legend.
I think he was, wasn't he?
But the way he then turned that whole team around, and we knew he had success. He'd been at Aberdeen and obviously won the European Cup with Aberdeen. He'd done very, very well with, again, a team of, no stars up in Scotland. And they went and did something extraordinary. Beat Rangers, won the league, and broke that sort of duopoly up in Rangers. So you knew he had the pedigree, but the impact I think that he's had on football full stop transcends whether he's United's manager. And I'm meant to be the Liverpool supporter.
Yeah.
Just the impact that man has had.
I think with Fergie as well is they talked, didn't they, about the canteen staff. Like the whole club was a family. He controlled the youth. He went to watch the youth games.
Yeah.
Every single member of staff who you might think he'd be too big to speak to, he spoke to all of them. They've all said it. This was his club, wasn't it? He built this from the ground. Because when I started supporting United, by the way, so no glory hunter stuff here. we hadn't won the league for 30 odd years. So I was 10 when we won the 93, 94, was it?
Yeah.
10 I was. And that was the first thing. We won a few FA Cups, I think, here and there. Obviously, the Cup Winners' Cup in 91 was Fergie's probably first big thing.
Yeah.
But just that club is him. And I think no manager, has sort of done that before.
I think that's caused a problem with United.
That is exactly the problem, isn't it?
Because it's like his shadow is still there.
Yeah.
You know, he picked Moyes, if we believe, or put Moyes forward. And on paper, 10 years at Everton, you kind of think, actually, this guy has done so well with Everton. He's now going to go into this team with more resources and more. He's going to do really well. And they gave him something like a 7-year contract or something daft.
I mean, look how good he's doing now at West Ham as well, isn't he?
West Ham,
he's clearly a good manager, isn't he? I think he was at Preston before Everton as well, wasn't he?
Preston, North End before Everton, yeah.
The thing with Moyes is, I think he was a good manager and possibly was the right shout. He should have came in
a year or so earlier or something, have a bit of a transition.
But also, what he got wrong was that he said to those players, I want you to be like blah, 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 blah. Everton players and the United players who are champions did not need to be compared to.
And then he brought Mario Fellaini in.
And he made some mistakes, but I think Moyes is a good guy. Fergie, obviously, as the character that, gruff, working class boy from Glasgow. But I think for me, if I was going to argue, clearly we're not arguing, but for Sir Alex Ferguson, it's just the fact that he, in that 25 years, built about 7 teams.
And that's
he kept building teams. And when he sold Beckham, everyone was like, what the hell? When he got rid of Jaap Stam because they'd had a fallout, you were like, what? I remember one season he sold Ince, Hughes, all of those like first team players, because he knew the kids were coming through the 92 team. Yeah. Beckham, Scholes, Butt, all of them, the Nevilles. And to do that so consistently, people say United bought everything. I don't think they did.
No.
They made money from the business. I don't think I know that in the end, you look at money spent, but $1 million on Cantona.
Yeah.
He kept building those teams, literally getting rid of superstars. When Van Nistelrooy got sacked, you're like, what? And they did get sacked. These players upset Fergie. You don't get rid of David Beckham, do you? You don't get rid of Van Nistelrooy or Jaap Stam. You just don't do that. And he did it, and he kept building these teams and coming back and dominating for another 3 or 4 years. Then he get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I think I look at your Liverpool team now in the last 4 to 5 years, it's pretty much the same team. I know you've got a new midfield this year.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the biggest change. This is the biggest, and arguably he didn't want it to be that much of a transition, but the Saudi money came in for Fabinho and for Hendo, and you looked at Hendo, he had a year left on his contract, he's in his early 30s, you're kind of like, well, do we sign him up for a couple more years?
You take the money, don't you?
Because he could have, but £12 million, what can I do with that £12 million? Fabinho, brilliant player. I toyed with having Fabinho as in his CDM, but he wouldn't have got in the team because I thought in that role, he was just brilliant. But 40 million for him. So you suddenly got 52 million for a couple of your older players. And then you invest that in, Slobbersley or whoever, Gravenbach, McAllister. You suddenly go, well, actually, we can do the refresh early. And so far, it's got to gel in. My expectations this season are really low because we're bedding in a new team, but they're outperforming my expectations.
Absolutely. And as long as when you start getting that consistency, I think I seen something on the news yesterday or on Twitter that you haven't played any of the top 6 at Anfield yet.
No.
And you're literally in the top 3 by 2 points. So that's a good thing. It pains me to say that, definitely.
And obviously the Spurs game was a totally different conversation, being robbed of that perfectly good goal.
But
I was going to say we're undefeated.
At Old Trafford that you stole off us with your VAR, So I think generally speaking, that's a nice team. Sir Alex is the manager. For me, the biggest thing that Sir Alex Ferguson achieved was when he joined. He said he was going to win more leagues than you. And at that point, you were like 14 leagues ahead of us.
We were so far ahead. So everyone laughed, and then you did.
The thought of it, and then to go and win 13, I think. To put us on 20 and you winning that one the other year brought you to 19. The fact that Alex Ferguson said, and he must have been tongue in cheek.
Knock you off your perch.
It must have been a joke when he said we're going because you were like 14 leagues ahead or something, and then he went and won those 13 Premier Leagues. I think for me that's just the greatest thing ever. And what Ten Hag said something about people come and go, like in some kind of reference that we're going to come and now beat City and Liverpool. I don't think he's got quite the same.
Watch his space.
We'll see. I mean, Fergie failed for 4 years, didn't he? And then he didn't fail. But you can only fail until you stop failing.
Exactly.
It's about having some faith. Ole Solskjaer needs a little special mention just for being the legend that he is. He stabilised this ship.
He did, yeah.
In the 2 years he was with us.
He did a brilliant job, yeah.
I just think he got too big for him at the end, but this has been super, super interesting. I think we could have probably disagreed on lots of other things as well, couldn't we?
Absolutely. Like, you know, who lays a team out like that, James?
I know. I mean, I as a coach, I've coached for a long time now. I hope to stick with 4-4-2. I think you know where you get with it, as long as you got some fluidity in that. But this modern stuff, this modern FIFA formations, 4-1-2-1-3, whatever it is. But that's a fair 4-3-3. That's what Liverpool play, isn't it? 4-3-3 today. That defence and goalkeeper.
Well, that's it. You've got such a good base there. You could almost have anyone else.
You've got me up front in that team. I mean,
I'm sure you'd be able to convert a few of the crosses.
If it hit me on the face and went in, it'd be pure fluke. But Alisson, James, you put a brilliant shout forward for him. I definitely get what you're saying about Robbo. I just think he's just not Evra. That's the only problem there, is Evra was just something else. You know, but then we had Gabriel Heinze, but he wasn't there long enough, but he was outstanding as well in that position.
Liverpool came in for him, but he didn't want to upset Man United.
Yeah. Good lad.
So he went off to Madrid, I think, or somewhere. Went abroad, went to Spain.
He's another one. Fergie
he was a cracker.
Fergie fell out with him and got rid of him.
Yeah.
You know, so that's that. We'll leave Phil Neville out of the conversation, shall we?
I've met Phil Neville.
But he's a really nice guy, isn't he?
He had no clue who I was. Go figure.
I can't believe that for 1 minute. You should not say something. Excuse me, Phil.
I was in fancy dress at the time. Yeah, met him in Manchester.
Next episode, fancy dress in Manchester.
Fancy dress in Manchester. Yeah, cool.
Right, so I think we both agree. Joking aside, we've had two fantastic teams, two fantastic clubs, great fans in the main. Both sides are great fans, haven't they? But we've been lucky, haven't we?
Yeah.
Over the years to be Liverpool United fans. And this has just sort of reminded me a little bit about how cool we've been, how lucky we've been.
Yeah, to see them. Yeah.
Definitely. So, that'll be this week's episode, or this episode of ModsPod. Thank you so much, Alan and James. And we'll see what we come up with next time. All right. Take care. And goodbye. We'll be with you soon for our next episode. See ya.